You should have finished the first two questions on ground traces, and so the next thing we're going to do is start our tutorial on using STK, Satellite Toolkit. So before you download these Orbit Tuner Option 1 files, we need to create a folder inside your drive. So open up your drive, and I believe yours says My Documents, mine says Private. So we're going to create a new folder, and we want to name this STK. I also ask you to create a folder called STK in the next tutorial, but as long as you've created it here, you should be all set. So I've created that folder. I'm going to close this. Next, I'm going to download these files, and they should be downloaded now. I had practiced this once before, that's why I have two down here. So I'm going to click that once, and it opens it up. You need to click and drag this down to your folder. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If we open up my drive here, and then where your STK folder was, and mine was in private, yours is probably in My Documents, I'm going to drag this to STK. And there it is. Sometimes it takes a little while to load, but we got it right there, so we're all set there. So now we're going to open up STK, open this in the background, and you might get a series of alerts. Sometimes you get one that says it's a demo like this, it's going to expire. I'm just going to say don't show that again. And now what I'm going to do is open a scenario. So it might say that it can't find the folder, and so then you're just going to have to click on the Browse button and locate it. So in my case, again, it's in private and it's in STK, so you're just going to have to locate that folder and point to STK, then click OK. Then it should give you to this option where you can open a scenario, and we want to open up Orbit Tuner Model. So this is Orbit Tuner Model right here, and it's showing a model of the Earth, which is going to come into focus here. And yes, we want active X control on, so click yes. And now if I click the left pointer, I can sort of manipulate this and move around here, and it already places satellite in here for us. If I click and hold down the right mouse button, I can zoom in and out. So what I want to show you really quick here is just how you can change the satellite orbits. Now, this is a satellite that's in low Earth orbit, and you can notice that low Earth orbit really appears to be very, very close to the surface of the Earth. And this is where the International Space Station is. It has a orbit period of about 90 minutes. If you remember that our low Earth orbit is right in that range, about 90 minutes. So one thing that we can do is we can change the semi-major axis. So as I grow this, let me zoom out a little bit more. Now I'm going to pull this up so that you can see the ground trace a little bit better. Get my windows to align a little bit better here. And maybe if I click tile horizontally, now I can actually see them both. And you can see it reversed the order of these. That's fine. It doesn't really matter the order of them. But currently my ground trace, if I click play, we are just traveling around the Earth, but only on the equator. And as I increase this, then that changes, now I'm not traveling quite as fast because I'm at a really far distance. I can change the eccentricity, and you'll see that what this does is, since I'm so far out, I'm actually kind of hovering over this one spot, and just wait for it. Once I get close to the Earth, then the satellite really has to speed up. So now I zoom around on this side, and then it begins to slow down again. So now this time I'm going to be probably hovering around over here in the ocean. So depending on, if you wanted to hover over a certain spot for a certain period of time, that's probably where you'd use the eccentricity. I can change the inclination, and so now and let me zoom out a little bit more again. So now I have a really interesting looking ground trace here. I'm going to make a circular orbit once again. And you can see changing the inclination, that just changes your ground trace there. Let me make a smaller semi-major axis, then man, I'm really cruising around. So my orbit period, if I'm circular, I just got to make sure it's not less than 88 minutes, because then I'm, and actually that's as low as it goes. One thing to be careful for is if I change my eccentricity here, you can see I'm actually inside the Earth. And that's not allowed. You can't be inside the Earth. So you're just going to have to be careful. There's not really a good way to show that, yes, I am in fact far enough away from the Earth. So if you need a steep eccentricity, just you're just going to have to sort of eyeball it. That's sort of the only way. We don't have a way to give an actual distance from the closest point here. You can change the argument of perigee. You can see that this sort of changes where that maximum distance is, where the apogee and the perigee are from certain points on the Earth. I can change those spots like this. And RAN will change how it kind of pivots around the North and South Pole there. That it pivots that orbit around the North and South Pole. So you could have multiple different satellites at different RAN, and they wouldn't be crashing into each other. And they really would all be kind of serving the same purpose. They're just kind of in different pivot points around the North and South Pole. And then finally is true anomaly. Let me pause this. True anomaly is just, where am I starting out? Where do I want to start out on this orbit at a specific time? So I may need to adjust my true anomaly if I have two satellites that are running in a similar orbit. I want to have one start here at a certain true anomaly and in degrees, and another maybe start at 360 degrees. So it's opposite that. So different true anomalies is another thing that you can change. Here are some custom ones you can do. We have a custom or a preset low Earth orbit, but you can see that it sort of kept all of my values in here. So if I reset all of these, then that's the default, is a low Earth orbit. There is a medium Earth orbit, there's a highly elliptical, geostationary, and a constellation, GPS constellation type orbit as one of the GPS satellites. So a lot of various things you can do. What you're going to notice though is if you click play and if you have this thing go far enough, and we can increase the time here. If we have now watch what happened. You can see I can no longer see my satellite because the simulation is only designed to run a certain amount of time. So if you lose your satellite, you have to click this red reset button, and now I can see it again. And once that time period is gone, I got to reset it. So I'm going to keep this thing going slow so I can actually see what's going on. And you can adjust the actual time. So if I have real-time animation, this is kind of cool. It's going to get rid of my satellite because I don't have a satellite there in real time. But if I click play, this is actually real time. So right now it's 8:30 in the morning, and you can see that the sun has just risen over Colorado, and that's why we have just kind of it's just barely light over on the west coast, which would be 7:30 in the morning. If I zoom way out and I kind of pivot around, I should be able to find the moon. There it is. There's the moon, and if I put the dark side of the Earth towards me, I should be able to see the sun, and there it is. So there's the sun and the moon. So this is actually real time, and one project you're going to do later on is putting in the International Space Station into this and seeing it in real time, and in real time, when will it pass over your house so that you could actually look up and watch it pass, which you can actually do. It's kind of cool. So if I click back in here, I can go to normal animation mode. Let me reverse this, reset it, and now I'm kind of set back. So you're going to have to adjust different things here. And one of the questions that you're going to need to answer later on at the very end is, how is the ground trace affected when I change various different, and let me go back to custom because I can't adjust this. When I change various different things here, how does my ground trace actually change? And so those are some of the questions that you're going to have to answer. And so what you'll need to do is just play around with this until you can figure that out. You'll also need to come up with some specific scenarios for observing certain locations. And so to type in a location, let's say if I want to take a look at Perth, Australia, then I can just type in Perth and choose Perth right here. Well, it looks like there's I picked Perth, North Dakota, so I clicked the wrong one. But anyway, you kind of get the idea. If you want to choose a city, you can locate it and then place it right in there. So I think that should be all you need to know to get you started on Orbit Tuner.